Aloha everyone, my name is Alessandro and this is the Temple of Surf, the podcast. We'll give you full access to the best surfers, skaters, shapers, surfboard collectors, shop owners in the world. Discover with me their stories, the greater successes, amazing behind the scenes, and much more. Hello everyone and welcome to the 16th episode of the 5th series of the Temple of Surf, the podcast. Today with us is Rachel Lord, founder of Lord Surfboards. Let's discover her journey in surfboard making, surfboard surf, and much more. Hi Rachel, welcome to the show. Where are you today?
Today I'm in Miami Beach, Florida, a place where I am usually not.
Okay, so it's a special day, for you, for us. Today we're going to talk about many things, of course, shaping, surf, and more about you. But the first question I ask everybody on the show is, in your opinion, what is the most important thing in surfing?
I think spontaneity. I think that being in the moment, being spontaneous is the door to flow state. And I think that surfing at its best catapults you into that flow state where you're in pure response mode. And there's so few things in our structured life that allow you space for that spontaneity to enter into your life. Whether it's the spontaneous community that happens on a good day at a good break where you run into people that you didn't plan to see, or just that pure reaction to the wave that puts you purely in the moment. I think it's one of the most important states you can be in for joy and evolution.
Of course, it's a very deep answer. I like that, but it's of course being on a wave is a place of where a lot of happens, right? You just like it's you and the wave, but it's also you and the element of the water that is much bigger than all of us. It's you and other surfers that I might or might not respect etiquette, or it's quite an experience, and definitely each one of us has his own take, right? Out of
that spontaneous flow state may be antithetical to good surf etiquette sometimes, depending on how much you're in that state. But it's where I like to be.
yeah, exactly. We need to precise that, of course. And we're going to talk about a lot about surfboards today. But what was your first proper surfboard, and do you still have it?
I came to surfing really late in life, and I introduced myself to it. So my first surfboard I got for my 29th birthday. It was a 9.2 fine line with a 2+1 setup. I got it used for like $200. It was pretty beat up. I do not have that board anymore. I did my first ding repairs with so much gusto that I overdid it and carved all these holes in the nose of the board because I was trying to make them too perfect, and I gave up on it. That board is long gone.
Okay, so it's like trash. Doesn't exist anymore.
It doesn't exist.
To make a few bucks out of it.
Yeah. You
were able to resell it, or you just...
I carved like Swiss cheese holes in the nose, and then I think I just left it somewhere out of frustration. I didn't know any better at the time.
Okay, fantastic. And that maybe was your first attempt into the shaping world. How you end up like creating a career into shaping? How did you end up trying?
Well, I started trying with making miniature boards. I was making small, like 5 inches instead of 5 feet, boards to scale out of scrap that I would get at Fiberglass Hawaii. After making a few of those, I made like a Liz fish, I made a glider. I realized that I was spending nearly as much time shaping and glassing those mini boards as I would a proper surfboard. And by spending so much time bent over them, I was probably getting close to as much toxic exposure. Mm-hmm. So that helped me be less intimidated by the process and get to know the materials a little bit better and really understand the overview of the process. I think I was kind of hooked from that moment, but it took getting in a car accident and being unable to work and unable to surf and finally getting access to a shaping bay for me to make my first board. And after I had that first experience, I was totally hooked. It reignited all these things I loved about making sculpture in college, all these different ways of working, different materials all seem to come together in a surfboard. And I was just obsessed from the get-go.
We all find our dimension like this by chance a bit, like maybe an accident, can open a door of a shipping bay for you and transform it into a beautiful journey. So if things has to happen, they happen, right? So,
yeah.
But do you have any references when you started the process of shaping, or kind of a mentor, coach?
Not at all. I really didn't. Like I said, I was looking to classic shapes. I was looking when I was making these miniature boards at Skip Fry's, at Liss's. I was aware of these things. But I didn't have any mentors when it came to learning how to surf. I didn't have any mentors when it came to learning how to shape. And in a way, I'm grateful for that. I had the doors of a storage container bay open to me with tools in it, and I was able to allow the tools to teach me themselves kind of through my anticipation of what their purpose might be. I also read a blog. I forget what website it was even on. It might have been Swaylocks. It might have been Surfer. It was pretty step by step. I don't recall who made it. But I was looking to literature to learn how to shape, and letting just kind of what I know of the industrial design process to guide that for me. And I think that it's allowed me to have a different perspective and maybe approach it a little differently, and maybe come up with some different results, or come up with the same results as some people might have from a different way. And while I've been able to find some of those relationships now, being 3 years into shaping, I have those, and I'm at a point where I can really harness the input that I get from more knowledgeable shapers, where I'm not just working out of imitation. I'm able to conceptually apply what they're doing and translate it to what I'm doing.
Okay. And is hand shape or computer? Or both?
Hand shape only. But while I can be a bit of a Luddite, I'm not opposed to the computer. I think that if your quality control is good, I think if the shaper is the one to clean it up, that's not a hill I want to die on, saying that I'm anti-machine. But at this point in my shaping, I'm entirely hand shaped.
It goes back to the college studies, and the craft has to come with the hands, right? And then,
yes,
of course, we use technology to improve ourselves, but depends, how you see, but like the classic shapers, they still like to hand shape everything, and then maybe have some correction with the computer. It's acceptable, it's part of modern times.
I think you need to accept the times as they are, and there's benefits that come from having an open mind and working with the technology. The same sort of shift happened when I began my art career, where people started using the computer more and more. I come from an era of post-internet art where people were getting things produced or printing on canvas, all that much more. I never favored that, but I do see a need in board building to meet growing demand. And also, I think that when thinking about being more eco-friendly, I think that also translates to being more eco-friendly to the people making the boards. And the less toxic exposure over time, I think, is best for the people making surfboards. And if we reject using the computer and using some more of these automated processes, I think we're denying ourselves as shapers a potentially more healthy way to do things by not exposing yourself to so much, to that 60% of the foam that you're going to take off in the process of making a board. If a machine can do that for you, and you can have a longer life as a shaper as a result, I think that is a form of being eco-friendly. We are part of the environment.
Of course, we must respect it as well. Just being part is not is not enough. And okay, so in this series, so it's going to be the 5th series of the podcast. I was able to interview women that are shaping. So I interview you, I interview Surf Insta, French, and I also interview what's Jillian, Shaped by She. I like to understand from your point of view, the industry of shaping, it's male dominated. 99%. So how do you live in this? How do you can create your space in this industry? I guess it's not as easy as it seems just to be out there and shape, right?
At first, it was tough. And I think I might have internalized some of that struggle a little bit more than I do now. I've come to really love being in the position of being a rarity in shaping because there are a lot of shapers out there. And especially if you're looking to more classic outlines, there's a lot of people making quality work. And to stand out in a crowded field, you need to be a bit different. And I enjoy being visibly that different. I also think that the way that men interact with each other, at first, it can be daunting for a woman to be outside of that because there's a bit of a brotherhood. But I think sometimes women are a bit too competitive with each other. And we have something to learn from that sort of way that men share knowledge and information with each other. I also think that if the doors have been closed for a long time into one way of doing things, it leaves a really big void. And right now, there is a big door that's been opened for women to walk through. And it's a really exciting time to be a female shaper. I don't choose to focus on the things that maybe I would have felt left outside of or held back by. I've chosen to see them as exciting challenges. I love proving people wrong. I love people's surprise and excitement when they find out that I've made or glassed or, built this board. And I do think it's changing. I think that men for so long, or, with shapers being predominantly male for so long, it's left in the customer service department and in the art department. A lot of wants have not been met by male shapers. And I think that that's exciting for me. It's nothing but opportunity. And I think that the more and more that the community of female shapers can be in support of one another, can share the knowledge that they know with one another and not see each other as competition, but as allies and a sisterhood or a guild of makers. I think that's what we have to learn from the male community. And I'm excited to see that develop.
Yeah, me too, in fact. And, as surf is getting bigger, just think about what, after the Olympic Games, what's happening, in the surf world. And as well, more and more people are getting into surf. Like, for instance, the Chinese, there is a nice about the Chinese surfing evolution by an Italian author, Dick Zanella. It's very interesting. And so there are many, many people, and quite a lot of them are women, because now through Instagram, also to social media, they see that it's other women are doing that as inspiring. And you were talking about sisterhood, brotherhood. What I came to know with this edition of the podcast is that there is a real sisterhood. So women, they prefer to buy boards from women, and it's also a difference of body. If we go to the specific things, like a woman surf a longboard, let's say, or a shortboard in different way than a man. And so being a woman and being aware of the body of a woman allows you to create boards that are better for that, right?
I think so. I never want to be pigeonholed as somebody who makes boards only for women, because I feel like the design differences, especially in a longboard between a board for a woman and a man, are maybe minor adjustments in length. But as somebody who's 5'2" and likes to ride a 10-foot board plus, I think that really it comes up more in a shortboard, as far as your center of gravity being lower as a woman and where the wide point is on the board. Maybe that shifts a little bit. But I have been blessed of having, I think, just the best customers in the world. I love dealing with them, interacting with them. I relate completely to their style. I relate to their journey, coming to surfing late in life. And with this new wave of new women coming into the water and what that's shifting in the dynamics of the lineup, I think that ordering a custom can be a bit daunting, and having that conversation, especially if it's your first one, with somebody who's patient and there to hear you and hear your needs and meet you where you are and put that time in. And sometimes it does help for a woman to talk to another woman about that. But yeah, I do think that the female audience, particularly the female custom audience, has been a bit neglected. I think that sometimes when certain guys, and I've heard it in person, on Instagram, whatever, there's a a way that they talk about making a board for a girl or a girly board, or like, this is the planer I use for my girl board. These are the colors I use for the girl boards. I think that it's a bit
outdated.
Yeah, maybe a bit outdated the way that they're thinking about it, or not considering the right elements when they think about what goes into a board for a woman. I don't really think about making a board for a woman versus making a board for a man because I am a woman. So I don't see the difference as much as like a guy might think of a guy being the default. For me, there's maybe less of a default surfer.
Yeah. I see what
you're really thinking more for. I'm thinking more for skill level. I'm thinking more about what waves they like to surf mostly and how they want to progress their surfing. And gender comes into it much less.
Yeah, I agree with you. I wanted to say it's not a niche shaping for women, it shouldn't be a niche. And it's just like an opportunity that
Yes.
I think a woman shaper has more than a man shaper. So it's just like, and as you said, woman to woman, but also man to man, it's maybe it's less intimidating on both sides,
yeah.
There is some barriers that are not there, and that allow conversation even more. Because with all the shapers that I interviewed so far, the key component of a good board is that talk between the shaper and the surfer. If the board is not good, the surfer has to say to the shaper, "I'm sorry, this board is crap." Why?
Yeah. Yeah.
Like,
no, I really like to leave a lot of space at the front end of my custom ordering process to get to know who I'm making a board for, really hear out what it is they want, and, maybe meet them there or maybe push them in the direction where I think that they need to go. But I tend to think of customs almost as channelings or like a form of energy work. I really like to let the board become what the person needs it to be. I like to leave a bit of open-endedness, especially on the art side, so that I can let the board that wants to be come into fruition and really almost like let it be a psychic experience, like of it being birthed, instead of just trying to hit the same model all the time. I think that that's the beauty of customs, is you get to have some difference in there, and you get to really consider the person you're making the board for, and let it come to life through your hands.
Definitely. Maybe it's a silly question, but do you have I know the answer, maybe you partially answer already. Do you have a model of surfboards that you like to shape more than others? Or for you is just, again, something like custom, every project is this different, every project has a different meaning?
Well, it's tough with models, because sometimes I think the naming a model and doing that thing, especially early in your shaping career, is a little bit corny. Mm-hmm. But from a communication standpoint, from a consistency standpoint, from a branding standpoint, it is important for people to have a point of reference. Not everything is just like a log. I have a model. I have two longboard models right now. One is a bit newer. One I've replicated enough times to be considering a machine for it, because I don't want to be chasing my own tail forever. I think that so much of, particularly in longboards, this applies less for shortboards, but there's so much distance that line around the outline is traveling around the board where things can shift. Subtle changes in rocker can make such a big difference for the way that it performs. So I do think in longboards like that, there's a value of going to the machine. That being said, my square tail longboard model that has a wide square tail, it's a wide board. It's just an ample California nose rider that is loosely based off of a Hansen 50/50. That was its original reference point, because they're just the best. That one's called the pedal pusher.
50/50. And you mean, is that one you're referring to?
Yeah, the first longboard I made was based off of that outline, and I've been tweaking and refining that template since. It's now presented itself as the world as the pedal pusher. And I love the name pedal pusher because it references that style of 1950s pants, of women. It kind of has that connotation, but it also implies driving that pedal to the metal and able to generating that speed. So I love that contrast between what you think of being a stereotypical woman thing and that aggressive element. So for me, that kind of sums it up well. That's probably my most popular model. But recently I experimented with a new one that I'm calling the fast pitch, where I was inspired by Dane Purley's Osprey blanks, the way that they go from wide in the tail to narrow in the nose for to have that stiffness in the nose. But it made me think, well, what if you reverse it and utilize that same sort of splay, but for stiffness in the tail and flex in the nose? How could you use that to generate a nose ride, maybe out of a board that has less foam? So that board is more of like a progressive pig, which I'm developing more as like a beach break model, maybe more for up north, Bay Area surf. And I've been having so much fun on that board, getting used to the springboard effect of that. I mean, I've had some where I get up on the nose and it just launches me off like a diving board. But then when I can harness it as a 9.2, it does allow me to perch in a really fun way. So those are my two longboard models at the moment. Other models that I'm making, I don't have, I wouldn't call them models. There's an egg that I've been working with, more of a speed egg. I want to develop more of like a tracker style egg, just because these are things I think that work well in California. I've been working with a pretty classic fish outline. It's closest to a list fish. I do think that there's a lot of truth and beauty in the tried and true geometry of some classic outlines that aren't to be messed with. And for me at this stage in my shaping, I really want to explore a lot of those shapes before I try to mess with them too much.
Okay. Let's go back to surfing, women surfing. What is next to achieve, in your opinion?
In women surfing in particular?
Yeah.
I think so much of it is being achieved, just the amount of progression and style that you see coming from women in surfing. I mean, I think about a surfer like Leah Dawson, and like the way that she just feels into her turns and how exciting that is to watch. I think that that's a really exciting development in women's surfing. I'm less interested in the shortboard world just because I know less about it, but seeing Groms at wave pools pull airs that like I've never seen is inspiring to see what that's going to translate to in the next 10 years as they develop their careers. I think that the way that women are incorporating their self-expression into surfing is creating so much more space for men to do the same. And I'm excited to see what that translates to culturally. I'm excited to see what that translates to into glass jobs, because I think that the male shaper and glasser, with some exceptions, obviously, there's amazing work being done by people like Super Wolf or sprays like by St. Pierre. In awe all the time. But I think that as more and more women come in with less attachment to convention, there'll be a lot of innovation. As far as like competition and stuff goes, I think that maybe we're getting there. I would love to see some of these talented women surfers be able to to be able to live as professional athletes a bit more instead of have to hold down all the different jobs that they need to do to make their professional surfing career happen. Then they'll be able to really live at the level that their surfing's at instead of, have to worry about supporting themselves in the way that a lot of male surfers don't. So that'll be exciting to see.
Yeah, definitely. I totally agree with you. And it's a quite exciting future for women surfing, for surfing in general, but women surfing as well. Maybe a reappropriation of certain places, but again, what I like what you're saying is the impact that will have for the surf culture in general and the transformation that will happen, and I think is going to be amazing, really. So you're very busy, right? You keep yourself very busy, right?
Sure, I try to.
Do you have like a project that you really want to work on in the future that for the time being is just parked there? Maybe you feel like...
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
So many.
Okay.
I'm an avid reader of science fiction, particularly hard sci-fi. So I love thinking about some of the ways that sci-fi writers think about the future. I like to think about how surfing would fit into that same future, thinking about surfing on a timeline of thousands of years.
Okay.
A project that has come to my mind recently, which I don't even know if I want to share, but I think that there's places that surfing and shaping is going to go that maybe people will be resistant to at first, but hold a lot of potential. I think that it's in the next 5 years where there's going to be shaping in virtual reality, and we should prepare for that. I think that if CNC machines are a thing, to translate it from real world back to the digital, there's a loss of fidelity, and that certain paint and sculpting programs in VR would translate really well to shaping. And I would love to be the one to develop that app, and really give it the input of you really make it proper and create that experience for people. And I see that one day people will be able to shape their own boards in a VR headset at home, send it off to the glass shop to get printed, and end up with their own hand shaped board without ever putting their hands on foam. Whether that's sacrilegious is a whole different conversation, but I think that that's knocking at our door. I like to think about ways to preserve surf culture through a cataclysm, such as a major asteroid hitting Earth or something like happened 12,600 years ago. What if we had a record made of bronze that explained in the way that you have at certain surf spots etiquette? You're thinking about even something like the Cardiff Kook. What if there was a major asteroid that hit Earth and all we have left is this terrible sculpture of surfing for a future civilization to reconstruct this act from? So I like to think about ways that we can leave surfing behind for more generations beyond just the next one. How can we make sure to carry this thing into, if we end up in some kind of transhumanist future, what does surfing look like in that? What does it mean to be a local in virtual reality? These are things that really excite me.
Wow, it's like first time I hear about this technological part. We go from hand shaping to shaping in the virtual reality. Now, like, imagine everything that is with the NFT, right? And NFT art, but can be a NFT also surfboard. I guess a lot of people will say, what the hell are you talking about, right? The objects.
Oh yeah, 90% of people listening to this are cringing right now. But I think that it's interesting to think about. Yeah, what if your NFT was like a template? I'm not really so interested in the crypto side of it. I think that has like maybe a shorter range, but it is interesting to think about like what surfing becomes when we're uploaded into some sort of a Borg cube. Do we still have this culture? Do we still meet at Malibu? And like, do you choose to surf crappy waves when you can program perfect 4 to 5 foot surf? What does it mean for the spontaneity of the ocean when you can program your surf? What does that become?
Yeah. It's a bit revolutionary. Like I will not express myself because I think it has a lot of facets to be considered. Nevertheless, if an asteroid hits Earth and we all survive, like not like in the movies with Denzel Washington or whatever, that everybody dies, though there is one person that is a Felipe Pomar, that is world champion, I don't remember, 1975, that he surfed a tsunami.
Wow.
Yeah, and it's a great story to hear if you want to Google it. He said like, okay, there was a tsunami going on, Felipe Pomar, and he said like, you know what, I go out there, and I surf. And I think it was a very interesting one. Though an asteroid didn't hit the Earth yet.
even short of those cataclysms, I mean, as water rises, coastlines are changing. Breaks are going to go away. New breaks are going to emerge. It's even similar to the boom that we have in places where surfing has been accessible because the wetsuit technology wasn't good enough, or they didn't have access to surfboards. I mean, there are emerging surf cultures all around the world. Like we get, these breaks are so crowded, but there's also new breaks that are being surfed every day. And I find that so exciting. I mean, even for me, surfing in Florida for me has been a fulfillment of a dream. I'm here just visiting family. And I lived here briefly in my 20s. And there's a lot of places I lived on the East Coast before I started surfing that it didn't even occur to me that was a possibility. Now it's a dream of mine to go revisit all those places as a surfer and see them through new eyes. And I'm really inspired by the emergence of cultures in cold water, or the emergence of surf scenes in cold water places, in big industrial cities, in Senegal, in Canada. Like it's so exciting to think that there's all these new surfers out there that aren't crowding your home break in California, but are starting a new thing where they are. And really, dedicating themselves a lot to learn and be out in the water in some of these places. I love it.
Yeah, it's a definitely interesting subject, and as we have seen, not long time ago, if you think about Laird Hamilton or Budsy Kerbox, with the towing waves, and now what is it, Surfing Nazaré and all these, so I'm sure there is a lot of not innovation per se, good ideas, sometimes a little bit crazy, that will allow us to explore more the world of surfing. Definitely, I rather prefer an asteroid not to hit Earth, but that's my personal choice. I mean, no Armageddon yet. But
agreed. I don't want to be wearing like a 10 mil wetsuit trying to work through a freeze. Cool. A later younger dryest period.
So we're going to finish our interview with a short Q&A session. So the questions are the same for everybody. Please answer the first thing that comes up to your mind. Okay?
Sure.
The best surfboard that you ever ridden?
This is easy because it happened yesterday. I had the wonderful experience of riding an 810 Rick improviser in chest high waves down here in Florida, and the translation of that, like shaping for Hermosa, how that translated to Florida. I just could not believe how modern this board felt. And I've always known from looking at Ricks that I related to them. I really love the way that the rail line shifts and how subtle the concave is, just the shape of the rails, the foiling in the tail. I always related to it, but I never had a chance to ride one until yesterday. That it just blew my mind.
Favorite shaper of all time?
That's a more complicated question because I didn't have the experience of growing up riding a ton of boards. So the amount of boards that I've had under my feet of other shapers is, I haven't ridden everything. But I have to put Rick Stoner up on the list for that experience I had yesterday. And I'm going to put Lance Carson on there because he is the one person so far who I've gotten to spend time in my bay with. And I'm so like the elegance of his outlines, getting to shape off of his outline. I mean, you feel the sacred geometry. His surfing inspires me so much. And just listening to him talk story has been so inspiring to me. So yeah, I'm going to give it to Lance.
Okay. Personal question, your favorite song?
Ooh, I love songs. I have so many. I'm going to say John Prine's Angel from Montgomery. Especially talking about a perspective of female shaping. I think it is so profound and beautiful that he put himself so wholly and deeply into the perspective of a woman. And it's so bold for a man to create art from the perspective of a woman. I think that and to put himself not only into the perspective of a woman, but into the despair of a woman and the despair that a man can cause a woman. I mean, that's like an evolutionary way of thinking. And it makes me cry often when I think about it. I think that the one time during COVID that I was truly angry was the death of John Prine. I feel like something was taken from us. And, listening to the Jim Clemton interview that you did, I think of that song a lot. In the value that it has for the female community when a man dives in and represents the female perspective to the community of men, or to put that seal of approval on it. I think that, we don't need men to bring us in, but when a man does that work, it truly touches me.
Yeah, of course. It helps, It's not essential, but it helps. Favorite surf spot?
Spot or wave?
Oh my God. Favorite surf spot, I said to everybody.
I gotta say Malibu. It has my heart. I started surfing late enough that I don't mind the crowd. I grew up ski racing in Aspen. So the consequences of running, I'm good at anticipating where somebody's about to be. And I love the spontaneous community. I love that, you don't have to make plans. Everybody's there. And I just love the wave so much.
Great. Definitely a great wave. And then a favorite surfer of all time, a woman surfer.
Favorite woman surfer of all time. Geez. There are so many amazing female contemporary surfers right now. I primarily ride a longboard, so I would prefer to give you the list of those female surfers that inspire me. Because I came to surfing late, I really did a lot of, watching people on Instagram. And I would say that Michaela Smith, Melly Saili, Jen Smith, Leah Dawson, Cassia Meader, Erin Ashley. I mean, I think that I love their style. I love the way that they are on the beach. I love the way that these women know their craft and talk about surfing. And I'm inspired by each one of them differently. I mean, there's like historical, like there's so many. I mean, Linda Benson. I'm going to keep it contemporary. My list. Yeah,
it's okay. Your list is very good, not good enough, very good. So. The last question is a little bit unusual. Since you listen to the show, you know what I'm talking about. We want your best relationship advice.
I love giving relationship advice. It's like a passion of mine. As a Scorpio rising, like diving in and unearthing the root of the problem I love. But I truly believe that the most important relationship is the one that you have with yourself. And if you don't have love for yourself, you don't have love for another person. So whatever it takes in that relationship to make sure that your foundation is strong and your relationship with you is strong, you need to do that thing. Whether it's taking time apart, whether it's surfing by yourself, whether it's being together or not being together, that needs to be the primary relationship. Otherwise, you're just going down the road of codependency.
Yeah. Every good change, I guess, starts with yourself, right? So everything that changes in life it has to start from somewhere. And if it starts from yourself, I guess it will be even more successful. So thank you, Rachel. I really enjoyed this conversation. Oh my God, so many topics. We would have 3 hours talking about all that. But thank you so much. And I look forward to talk to you very soon.
Thank you, Alessandro. It was super fun. I really appreciate it.
Thank you. Ciao.
Have a great day. Ciao.
Hi, it's me again. I hope you enjoyed our today's episode. If you want to know more about us, please follow www.thetempleofsurf.com and all our social media. Mahalo!